Hello guys, this is UniversalGiant and welcome to a special bonus episode of Let's Play The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess. Now, you might have expected us to go fishing in this episode. Why am I running around Hyrule Field? Turns out there's more than one place you can go fishing, and I tried to get as much bopper fishing out of the way as I possibly could before heading to the fishing hole. Just as a little challenge to myself to see what kind of fish I can catch outside of the fishing hole. And the first one we catch is none other than an Ordon catfish. You'll find these generally in places close to the Ordona province, especially if you're actually in Ordon village, but I didn't bother going back to fish there. Of course, you'll find just about everywhere these little green gills like we had to catch in the very first episode. Or was it the second? No, it was the first episode. And of course, not everything you catch is going to be a fish. Sometimes you get trash, like a boot. It's good for the environment, though. And there are other things that aren't fish that you can catch besides boots that you might actually want, like, say, a bag of rupees. You can get anywhere between 1 and 50 rupees from these. I'm not exactly sure on what the numbers are or the odds of getting a certain number of rupees. All I know is that these are pretty rare, and I found one on the very next try. And those are the only two I found in the entire 2-hour session, which is kind of funky. You can also get a twig, another piece of trash, but in all my years of playing this game, I've never caught one of those. And this is to show off that if you catch another fish that's already bigger than one you have, it's recorded as a new size record in your fish journal, which you can access on the pause menu. And before we leave, let's catch another boot, why not? Will there ever be a day when people don't throw away boots like this? Probably not. I didn't know so many people around here had boots in the first place. But next, we venture back behind Kakariko Graveyard to the resting place of King Zora. And here I'm actually looking for a particular fish, which is easy to spot if you have crystal clear water like this. But it still took me 3 minutes to find this guy, so I eventually gave up, jumped into the water with my iron boots, and there he is, the little brown fish over there on the left side of the screen, swimming around. I like that you can actually see where the fish are, and I'm pretty sure you could also see where they were in Ocarina of Time too, but I just like that you don't randomly get a fish. You actually see them fishing around, swimming around, and you can actually see them coming down to bite on the bobber there. So we wait for it to go down, and we catch the fish that I'm actually looking for. The Hylian Loach, but this isn't the legendary one, it's only the fried, also known as the baby loach. Don't worry, we'll be catching the adults soon enough. There's another nice fishing spot up here in front of the really long cave on Lake Hylia. I believe I actually went here in the LP too. But I really came down here to show off the beehive up there. We encountered one in Ordon Village, but I don't think I adequately explained what it was. And in order to get the thing I'm looking for, I actually need an empty bottle. So I drink the blue potion I bought at Malomart for no reason, and try all the wrong ways to knock this thing down. The Gale Boomerang, all it does is just get the bees angry. I don't even notice they're coming for me, so I go for my bow and arrow to try to shoot it down, and oh wait, there are the bees. All you have to do is jump into the water and they'll lose track of you. So let's try shooting down the beehive, or shooting straight at the beehive and then trying to kill the bees with bow and arrow. Is it going to work? So I eventually get angry enough to just go after them one-on-one and try to swipe at the beehive with my sword, hoping to knock it down. Because that would be the most satisfying thing to do. Die! And of course, it doesn't knock it down either. Turns out the easiest way to knock it down is with a slingshot like they taught you at the very beginning of the game. I didn't even think to use the darn thing. And when you knock it down, you have access to something that you can use to bait your fishing rod with. Scoop it up, and you can catch 10 bee larvae. Now this is 10 different things you can use to bait your fishing rod with. And you do it the same way you would refill your lantern with oil. If you have the fishing rod and the bee larva both equipped to different buttons, and the fishing rod is not already baited, just hit the bottle that has the bait in it, and you'll attach it to the end of the fishing rod. Now, if your fishing rod is already baited, or you don't have the fishing rod on the other button, and you use that, you'll just restore a quarter of your health, and I don't imagine bee larvae taste very good. But there are so many better healing items in the game that it's not really worth it. And the first fish we catch down here is the one that I was actually looking for, the Hylian Loach. This is actually one of the spots I would recommend looking for this thing if you're after it for some reason outside of the fishing hole. And something Jurojack pointed out to me when we were going through the Lakebed Temple was that you can actually fish for these skullfish here. The skeleton fish, the piranha things. Now, I say you can fish for them, but I literally sat here for 20 minutes trying to catch these stupid things. Either waiting for the bobber to go down far enough that I could actually pull it out, or just randomly pulling it out of the water. I could not get these things to bite for whatever reason. They just circled around it like this, making ever louder splashing noises. Literally 20 minutes I spent here. And I know for a fact that you can catch these things. I've seen it done. And if you do, you get a little message saying something like it's not appropriate or it's a forbidden fish, and the fish journal won't keep track of it. But the funny thing is, the game actually does keep a statistic for the largest skullfish you've caught. It just doesn't show it in the fish journal, which is kind of funny. So I eventually get angry enough after 20 minutes of sitting here waiting for them to bite that I just say, you know what, screw it, you guys can all die now. I actually wanted to see if killing off all of these skullfish would bring more fish to the surface, like fish we could actually fish for, that the fish journal would keep track of. I was also surprised that the bow and arrow was actually an effective way of killing these things, because you'd think in the water it wouldn't be. But there you go. So I go for a little dive, swim around, see if there are any fish left. You can see I got rid of the skullfish on the other side too. And no new fish appeared, not even when I re-entered the room. The skullfish just respawned. So I don't know if you could do that in other rooms, or if it was just the main room that didn't allow me to, but the funny thing was, when I cast out my line again, the bobber kept going in and out of the water like the skullfish were still there. So I imagine you could even catch them when they're not there anymore, which is a little weird. And I locked onto something behind me and I heard a Tektite, so I was wondering if it was there. And hey, it's a Tektite. How you doing, Tektite? You're dead now. Good day, sir. But before we leave Lake Hylia, there is one more fishing spot I wanted to show off, and that's in the Lanayru Spring. And this is also a good place to go fishing for the Hylian Loach if you can find it. Generally, the best places you can look for that thing are places where you can actually swim underwater and find these guys, because they won't bite your rod fairly easily, but they are pretty easy to spot once you get in the water. So there you go. And now that we've gotten all of that pre-fishing hole shenanigans stuff out of the way, it's time to actually go back to the fishing hole. You remember the fishing hole? Upper Zora's River? Hena with the boat that we caught the heart piece on, the archway rock in the middle of the lake over there. No. Oh, that's fine. So here we are. Did you miss us, Hena? Hena, I keep calling you something else. I never agree on a name for these guys. I have, like, 2 pronunciations for half the characters in this game. And something funny that I didn't actually notice until fairly recently, that you can look around the room and actually have her describe different things besides the pictures, like her little pet bird, Purdy. And this actually brought to mind for me a couple of mechanics that were left over from the Wind Waker engine that they just decided to use again for this game. Like, if you remember Lenzo, if you walked into his art gallery and looked at the different pictures he took, you would zoom in if you got close enough to the picture and he would describe it to you, similar to what Hena's doing here. And that got me to thinking what other mechanics they left over from Wind Waker that they reused. And I thought about flying with the Uka in the City in the Sky. The mechanics are very similar, if not identical, to flying with the Deku Leaf. Oh, we're not going to look at that game yet. A couple of other things I want to check out first. Like this book, which I didn't actually expect to zoom in on. The Legend of the Hylian Loach. pretty important piece of information here. They're not very active in the cold weather, so the best season to catch them is in summer. The fishing hole actually goes through 4 seasons, and the seasons cycle when you exit and re-enter the fishing hole. The first one is spring, summer, fall, winter. And since we already looked at Hena and Isa's photos, she asks us who we think are cuter. And of course we have to say Hena, because if we say Isa, she's going to throw us out. I don't remember what she says if you say both are cute. But what we're really interested in gives Wii players nightmares. This little mini-game over here. Rollgoal. Costs 5 rupees to play, but you win 10 rupees if you win. So you make back your money if it takes you 2 tries, and you win back 5 rupees if you win it on the first try. And the objective here is to tilt the board in such a way that you roll the ball all the way to the purple end, pink end, why do I call it purple? Without letting the ball roll off of the course. And because the GameCube controller has such a wonderful analog stick that I've been doing nothing but praising for the last 4 or 5 months, this is fairly easy to do in the GameCube version if you're just patient enough. But I hear it gives everyone who plays the Wii version of this game nightmares, because this is actually motion controlled. I've never tried the Wii version. I've just heard nightmares about it. And if you want to get the next course available, you have to exit and re-enter the place here. And that's the only time I'll show it off. After that, we'll just be cutting straight to the next course. Generally, the first 5 or 6 courses are really pretty straightforward, as long as you just play this really patient and conservatively. I believe she gives you 2 minutes for every single course, and that's more than enough time to get this done. There are 8 courses in total. They go through from 1-1 to 1-8. And once you complete all 8 of them, they just cycle through again with less time. I think she cuts off 10 seconds every time. Not entirely sure. It's not really worth going through all of the courses 8 times, because the only reward you get for doing that is the ability to play any of these courses whenever you like, as opposed to being restricted to 1 course each time you come in. I've never bothered to do that because it really isn't worth it. I mean, you don't even get money rewards for it or anything. And even if you did, I mean, if you want to count the 5 rupees that you net every time you win on the first try, there are so many better opportunities for you to get money in this game, it's not really worth it. And you can see my rupee count is down 10 instead of 5 here. It's because I messed up at the very end of the course. I literally got so anxious to finish this that I overshot the last corner block in front of the goal. That's really the only thing that you have to worry about in this game, at least in the first few courses. Don't get too anxious. Take your time. And there really isn't that much else to say. Just try to go in one direction as opposed to 2, like here if you have those 2 angle blocks. Just go left, then up, then left. Don't try to go diagonally, you risk messing up. And now things start to get fun. Because she adds these red ramp blocks. And in order to get over one of these, you actually have to tilt a certain angle in order to get out of the ramp. Which seems pretty simple, except you risk overshooting the other end because you're already tilting forward, or whatever direction you're tilting to get out of those. And even the first 2 courses where they introduce those ramp blocks, they're not that bad, because they have them at the very beginning of the course. So if you mess up on the ramp block here, you can just restart immediately. No harm, no foul. Just lose 5 rupees and maybe 10 seconds. It's only in the next course and the one after that that they start to get pretty menacingly difficult. But I'd really like to hear, if you guys have the Wii version and you've played this game, what is your biggest gripe with it? Because I'd really like to understand what's so difficult, not having played it myself. I mean, I imagine it is motion control, but I'd like to know just what about it is so annoying. Is it that you just can't control it well enough? Would the Wii Motion Plus help with that? I stopped right on the edge of the ramp there. I was really surprised with myself. And now we finally made it to the last course, 1-8, where she has actually 4 of these ramps. Now, what I like to do with these is position the camera behind myself, which you can do by using the C-stick. And I find I have less of a tendency to overshoot the end of the ramp if I have the camera behind me. But to each his own, you don't necessarily need to do that. And of course, this is the most difficult part of any of the courses because you only have one corner block on either end. So if you get out of the ramp, you have to stop yourself dead or you're dead in the water. And luckily enough, I do manage to do it. And we never have to play Rollgoal again. But we do get a prize for clearing all 8 courses for the first time. We get to use the frog lure. The frog lure which I don't end up actually using. For shame. However, if we come back in, we can use the frog lure if we go lure fishing. And you can see she's already set up the first course again. And she explains that we only earn the opportunity to play it with a more restrictive time limit. It's the same course. Not worth it. Because we already have access to the frog lure. And we can finally go lure fishing! Unfortunately, just for the irony, I'm going to have a bonus episode that involves fishing, but not fishing with the lure at all. I'm gonna save that until tomorrow. This is UniversalGiant, and we'll go lure fishing next time. Am I really settling for that kind of cliffhanger?